If you're struggling in your marriage, no one partner is the monster and no one partner is the hero either. You have both built the dysfunction. Welcome back to the Secure Husband Podcast. Bruce Abbott, certified professional coach and founder of SecureHusband.com, the podcast where I help good men start leading from emotional integrity and inner peace. On the last podcast, I talked about how a marriage is a system and that it takes two people to have a healthy marriage or to have a dysfunctional marriage. And if your marriage is hurting right now, if you feel like your wife is distant or angry or emotionally cold, there's a lie that you might be tempted to believe, that she's the broken one. If she would just soften or care or come closer, things would be fine. Or maybe you've flipped that and you believe another lie. This is all my fault. She's amazing, I'm defective, I've ruined everything. I want to dismantle both of those lies. There is no such thing as a marriage with one perfect spouse and one defective one. Every long-term dynamic, even the painful ones, is built by two people reacting to pain. And most of those reactions are driven by attachment wounds. We've talked about anxious and avoidant attachment styles in previous podcasts, how they attract each other. They fuel that pursuer-distancer cycle, and they create a relationship that's draining and confusing. It's impossible to thrive in, and you feel stuck. So I just want to bring some clarity to this concept of a co-created dysfunction. These are two wounded people, both trying to protect. They're not bad people. They're not enemies. They are both guarded. And we talked last time about the system. The system becomes dysfunctional because it's co-created. And no one partner is the problem. Because you have that anxious avoidant attachment dance. It feels magnetic at first, and then you get the pursuer-distancer cycle, and that keeps you both stuck, and then you're reacting, and you're blaming, and you just have to stop and understand that dysfunctional marriages aren't built by bad people. They're built by wounded people reacting to pain instead of responding from healing. Because you and your wife may love each other deeply and still have created something that doesn't feel emotionally safe or physically intimate or even sustainable. And this didn't happen because one of you is the toxic one. It happened because you each had unhealed fears, you each had coping mechanisms, you each responded to tension in ways that made the other feel more unsafe, and over time those reactions became the norm. So if you're sitting there thinking, if only she'd change, or blaming yourself and collapsing into guilt and shame, you're missing the truth. This is not about fault. It's about awareness. And the person who becomes aware first gets to lead the healing. So you start with noticing. You notice the pattern beneath the pain. We tend to notice just the surface symptoms. She never initiates sex, or she gets irritated by everything I do. She shuts down in every argument. She never says anything kind or loving to me. We just see the outside. But what's actually happening is there's a deeper pattern playing out. It's likely tied to our attachment styles. Many struggling couples fall into one of the most common emotional loops in marriage, and this is that pursuer-distancer cycle, the anxious attachment, avoidant attachment dance. And I encourage you, I've got several podcasts on this anxious attachment style and avoidant attachment style. It works because the anxious partner craves connection but fears abandonment. The avoidant partner fears being overwhelmed and craves space. So when stress hits, the anxious partner pursues with demands and pleas and questions and emotional intensity, and the avoidant partner distances by withdrawing or shutting down or getting quiet or deflecting. And the more one chases, the more the other runs. The more one runs, the other chases. You're both two scared people. And your nervous systems are protecting you in the only way they know how, by repeating the same loop, the coping mechanisms that you learned when you were young. So when you notice this, you can choose to own your role. Again, not out of shame or guilt or blame, but out of leadership. You take the lead and set the tone in your marriage. Anxious husbands usually do one of two things. They blame their wife. She's cold. She checked out. She never tries. Or they blame themselves. It's all my fault. I ruined everything. Both of those are reactions, but not leadership. Leadership says, I'm not the only problem here, but I am the one who's going to start showing up differently. I'm going to stop abandoning myself. I'm going to start healing myself and treating myself with love and compassion so that I have overflow for my wife. And that may look like no more chasing her down the hallway for closure in a discussion. No more this emotionally vomiting on her. Hopefully she'll finally connect. No more trying to guilt her into affection, no more reacting when she pulls away. These are the choices you can make. And you begin with self-awareness. You stop seeing her behavior as the whole problem. You're certainly not putting it all on your own shoulders, but you are asking the question, what is my nervous system doing right now? And is that leading, or am I reacting from fear? And you start to change the system. All of this stemmed from the coping mechanisms that you learned when you were a little boy, who believed that love meant earning or performing or people-pleasing. That's where the anxious attachment style usually starts. You didn't get consistent emotional needs met as a child, and you learned that love came through being good or helpful or smart or funny. You felt anxious when people pulled away. That never got soothed. You brought all of that into adulthood without even knowing it. I had no idea. I had no clue that I was wounded inside, and that when my wife got quiet or she rolled her eyes or her tone of voice was biting, I had no idea that it was that little boy inside of me panicking just like he did when he was a child, and a parent or caregiver did that same thing. And now you're an adult, and your adult response becomes explaining or overfunctioning or people-pleasing and performing and begging, pleading, manipulating, collapsing when she doesn't respond. All of those things. That's from that inner child inside of you. But what he really needs isn't her attention. He needs you. The adult man in you has to go inward and say to that little guy, I know this hurts, but I've got us now. We're not unloved. We're not invisible. We're just in pain. But I can lead us out, and I'm going to lead it with love. And you connect to that higher power, divine guidance, God, the universe, spirit, whatever's comfortable for you, that source of unconditional love and truth that you can dialogue with and say, God, am I worthy? And the answer is yes. Am I loved? Unconditional. And you stop chasing, and you start healing, and that's where real connection starts. And that's how you start to understand that her emotional avoidance isn't her being cold or evil in some way. It's just her self-protection. She's just protecting herself from feeling too much. She's doing the exact same thing inside that you are. Her nervous system is triggered. That's why emotional safety and emotional trust is so important in a marriage, because she developed coping mechanisms. She may have learned that emotional closeness is engulfment, and that vulnerability is danger, that love means losing her identity, and that intimacy, well, that's pressure and expectation or disappointment. And so she avoids, she numbs, she criticizes, she stonewalls, she makes sarcastic comments, resentful tone. It's not because she doesn't care, it's because she's scared too. You're both scared, but your fears look different, and that difference fuels the dysfunction. So she's not the villain, and you're not the victim. You're just two wounded nervous systems dancing the only dance you've ever known. So someone has to start disrupting the loop. Someone has to take the lead and set the tone. One grounded action at a time. You disrupt the dance. You disrupt the pattern. If you've been the pursuer, you can disrupt the pattern by saying what you feel without needing a response. You can give space without guilt. You validate your own worth instead of chasing her validation. If conversations go in circles, you can walk away calmly and lovingly, not withdrawing, not sulking, but you lead from grounded energy and not anxiety. So if she gets irritated and she says, I just need space, the old you might say, I just want to talk. Why do you withdraw? Why is that so hard? I want to work this out. Or maybe you collapse and say, fine, whatever, and you storm out. But now you breathe, you self-soothe, you calm your nervous system. You say, babe, I hear you. I'll give you space. I'm here when you're ready. And then you walk away, not sulking, not passive-aggressive, not withdrawing, not getting butthurt. You walk away steady, grounded, loving. That moment will rewrite the dynamic because you're no longer reacting like a boy who's scared. You're responding like a man who knows he's going to be okay. Responding like a man who knows he's worthy, no matter what she says or does. And even though I talk about being the first to break the cycle, again, that's not putting all the blame on you. I want to make that very clear. You see this as a system. You see this as a loop. You see this as a pattern, but you are choosing to be the first one to act and break the pattern. That's not admitting guilt or fault or blame or shame. That's taking the lead. You're taking the lead in fixing the system. You're taking the lead in building emotional safety and trust, whether she ever responds or not. You are taking that lead because that's the type of man you want to be. You want to be a man who is calm and grounded and leads from emotional trust and safety. It's hard. I'm not saying this is easy work, and it takes a while, especially if you've been married for a long time. This is not easy work, but when you can do it, it is so liberating. And when you heal yourself, hey, she may want to work on herself. She may come closer. She might not be ready either. But right now, your job is not to convince her or fix her or control her or any of those. Your job is to become the man who no longer needs to be pursued to feel whole, who doesn't react when she shuts down, who feels calm when things get tense, a man who's emotionally present. And if she has any desire to reconnect, your new presence will make it safe again. And if she doesn't, you're still going to be the man who's done the healing to walk forward in strength and not collapse. And either way, you'll be fine because you're no longer trying to fix someone else to feel whole. That's what becoming a secure husband is all about. Feeling whole in yourself, because there is no perfect spouse and there is no completely broken one either. Your marriage is a system. It was built by both of your reactions to fear. And whether or not she does any changing, you can start. You can become the man who no longer reacts from wounds and doesn't chase or collapse or leads with calm confidence. You become that man who feels his own worth. And you can break that anxious avoidant loop. And it takes time. One grounded step at a time can create a marriage worth showing up for. Set the tone, take the lead. I hope this podcast was helpful for you. If so, please give me a review. Hit that subscribe button for more Secure Husband episodes. Share this episode with someone who you think may need to hear this. Visit securehusband.com for more resources and book one-on-one coaching with me. I'll see you again on the next Secure Husband podcast. Thanks for listening.